Welcome to Trigger Talk, your place for everything first-person shooters like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and so much more. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and today, it's just me coming in for a shorter update. Let's jump in. This will probably be a topic that Sammy and I go into deeper detail on a future podcast, but I just wanted to touch on it really quickly after the announcement that Season 7 is going to be the end for Battlefield 2042. Is Battlefield 2042 dead? As we've been seeing, there's been a slow decline in player base if you look at stuff like Steam stats, even though Steam isn't the best place to look at data for Battlefield games, at least more recently, just because a lot of them are using EA Play now. But the landscape for Battlefield 2042, while Season 7 had a little bit of a jump if you look at the stats that are out there, it still quickly fell off. And I think this is just indicative of the strategy they've been using for Battlefield 2042, where they have these long gaps of time in between content drops, and a lot of the times the content isn't quite up to snuff. I think the last few updates, the maps have been great, but that's about it. And with Season 6, we just got one map over the course of about 5 to almost 6 months. It was just a single map, and that was it. No map reworks. It was just there. And I think this is something that is a little bit more depressing when you look at Battlefield as a whole. If you are a fan of Battlefield 2042, you might be seeing fewer games get filled up as much. You might be seeing more of the NPCs or the AI characters that you're going to be fighting against that are filling the lobbies. Portal games might be more of the strategy going forward because those have server browsers. There's just something that is slowly dwindling with Battlefield 2042 right now. But to answer my question before, is Battlefield 2042 dead? I would say not yet. There still is later on in the season the map rework. I'm not calling it a new map. It's not a new map. We've talked about this on the podcast before. It's a map rework, just a different flavor of a map rework. I think that's going to bring a lot of people back in. I know I'm curious to see what that is actually going to impact when we look at the game and people's play styles. How is this map rework actually going to affect the gameplay style going forward? Is something like this enough to bring the community back for just one last hurrah? Because Battlefield 2042 doesn't quite have the long legs as something like a Battlefield 4, where even Battlefield 1 and 5 have a little bit of a rise recently, though that is getting hurt a little bit with the updated anti-cheat now that it is no longer playable on Steam Deck. I know that took a hit. I was looking forward to playing that here soon. Actually, I wanted to go back through and play the campaign, but unfortunately, it's no longer available on Steam Deck, which was the way that I planned on playing that again. But when we look at Battlefield 2042 as a whole right now, we're in this really crazy spot where they have finally made the decision, which Sammy and I have talked about a lot on the podcast before, of will they cancel it? Will they continue to update it? I was of the opinion that I think they should cancel it unless they are very clear on what we can expect. And this is something that DICE has struggled with basically for the past 20 years with their games, is the communication. Their studio, it just intrinsically is part of the culture there. They just don't communicate well. They don't have clear marketing when it comes to the back and forth with the community. And the decisions that they made with the most recent season was a big problem, I think, with a lot of people. Every single announcement that they've had, I've been seeing comments of, hey, go back and change the game. Fix it. Make the visual recoil better. Make this feel better. So I feel like they got it really close with Season 6, and everyone was super happy with it. Then they announced the changes for Season 7. People got to play it, and like they were expecting, didn't like it all that much. So there's a lot of these things where it's like they took 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So it's better than they had it before, but there's still some things that they need to fix. But they won't necessarily be fixing it anytime soon, I don't think, now that the whole team is focused on Battlefield. And EA as a company is very focused on Battlefield. It's now, I wouldn't say it's a DICE game anymore. Battlefield is just an EA game. Now that they are putting so much into its success, they need it to succeed. They need to make it viable because they're stepping away from the licensed game side of things, and they're looking to invest into the games where they own everything. They don't have to license it out to anyone. They have full control, so that's why we now have 5 to 6 studios that are focused on the next Battlefield game. And it is going to be really interesting as we get closer to when this game is going to be announced and then eventually released. Now that we finally have closure around Battlefield 2042, I am excited to start theorizing about what the next game is going to be. And that's honestly the thing I'm probably most happy about, is now that they can finally focus on the next game, we as a community can say, hey, actually, let's look at what Battlefield 2042 did right and what it did wrong. What are some things that we can put out there to say, hey guys, if you still can, I would change this, or I would add this, or what have you. Especially with the rumors that it's going to be a sequel to Battlefield 4, like more directly tied to Battlefield 4, which is funny that it's rumored to be that because 2042 was technically a much longer time frame, but still a sequel to Battlefield 4. It was set during the same time period. It had the same characters in it. There's a lot there, but I think, or I hope that this rumor here actually just means that's going to be more closely tied to that experience, because as far as communities go, that game is honestly might even be more vibrant than Battlefield 2042's community. Because, I mean, especially before Battlefield 2042 launched, that game was very poppin'. It was filled. Like, you would be able to definitely find servers available that you could hop in, and there were many of them. So I do have hope for the future of Battlefield, but I think if we look at it as a whole, Battlefield 2042 isn't dead, but it is definitely dying because of the changes and the decisions that they've chosen to make for the game, and just really hindering themselves every step of the way. As they've gotten things better, they've generally just been kind of like hyping us up for, hey, actually, like, play this game. We've made it better. And then as soon as they do that, every single time, DICE just says, actually, yeah, nah, fam, we are not going to update this game anymore. Sorry. I know you guys are enjoying it. We got it to a place where everyone is like much more hopeful about the future of this game. We're just not going to do that. And I can't fault them for that, because Battlefield 2042 is not the platform that they need as a whole franchise. They did a good job. Do I kind of wish that they kind of just decided to go a little bit further with it? Yeah, definitely. Do I wish that they actually had a new map instead of a rework to end it off? Oh, definitely. But unfortunately, I think the right decision is to just step away from 2042. Clear the plate and step into the future. Make sure you're putting everything in the basket that it needs to be. That's assuming that the next game is going to be great. As we know, just because we're excited about it doesn't mean it is going to deliver like they have. They haven't done that in the last couple, so we'll see. Let me know your thoughts, and if you enjoyed this kind of like a mini update. Sammy is currently sick and has no voice because he's been coughing so much. So stay tuned. Sammy will be back on the show next week as we dive a little bit deeper into things. But as always, see you later, video gamers.